All right, welcome to the Talky podcast. I'm Jake Fisher with my buddy Mike Slack, and we are talking, if that's actually a word.
We're about to talky. Here it goes.
We are. What are you drinking, Mike?
Man, I am back on Reposado tequila. So, yeah. So I don't know what the brand is. It was a pretty wonderful, magical moment actually. I'm in a call for work, and in comes someone carrying and handing me a glass of tequila. All right. Thank you very much. I'm ready to go.
That's awesome. That's great. I'm drinking. I should be drinking an energy drink. Frankly, I got an empty thing of just water or whatever. I'm not nearly as cool as I used to be. Like I used to be able to tie it on, have fun. I could go all night, go all day, go all night, and now basically by 8 o'clock, I'm like, where's my bed? I'm like,
it was 4 weeks ago where we could start one of these and you had a drink in 4 weeks. It's gone.
Okay. I'm going to drink tomorrow. I'm going to have a drink next time. Next week we'll do it. I'm going to have a drink. I'll get like a Red Bull and vodka. There you go. Going old school.
Man, I had a really terrible college experience drinking not Red Bull and not vodka. Well, man, bad times.
Really?
It was like the first time I ever drank too. It was a really bad idea.
My the liquor that I cannot drink anymore because of a bad college experience is Southern Comfort.
Oh, okay.
Buddy, man. Yeah. I threw up in my own mouth.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
And I won't ask what happened next.
Yeah. Well, we stopped and I open the door and I spit it all out. And then my date goes, Jake, are you okay? And I was like, I'm fine. How are you? We didn't go out again after that.
That's how you know you're a sales guy, right? You can throw up in your own mouth in a date, open the door, spit it out, and like nobody knows, right? That's a sales guy. You keep it cool, man. Way to go.
Hey, this is just the Talky podcast. We talk about the worlds of sales, marketing, technology, business strategy, entrepreneurship, throwing up in our own mouths whilst drinking really bad bourbon. So there you go.
And we keep it all together while doing it, right?
Somehow, yes.
Making it look easy.
That's right. What are you reading, Mike?
I am listening to an audiobook right now about Qigong.
What is that?
Qigong. So are you familiar with like Tai Chi?
The thing where you move real slow. It's like slow motion karate.
Slow motion karate, right? And it's an Eastern exercise and spiritual practice where you have these very slow, deliberate movements to help yourself align your chakras and free your body. And it is incredible. My favorite thing about Qigong. So I'm listening to this book because I did Qigong and I was like, well, this is really interesting. What's all this about? So I listened to this audiobook. Is you kind of like beat your muscles like this. You pound your arms and you go down, and then you pound your other arm, and then you pound your chakras. It's really fun.
Interesting. So you're just it's like this. Like you're like in what's that what was the movie, the Sell Me This Pen movie?
Wolf of Wall Street. Yes,
Matthew McConaughey does the
I gotta tell you what, I love that scene. If I scroll through Facebook, it knows me. The AI is smart, right? It shows little video clips that it knows I'm going to watch. When that clip shows up, I watch it every time.
That's awesome.
I really do. Yeah. So the pounding is part of it, but there's a whole lot more to it, movement, everything else. So I love it.
I'll have to check that out.
How about you? Reading anything?
I'm still reading Gino Wickman's Traction, man. That's like the third week. I'm still on it. And I think part of the reason what's going so slow is because my Audible app, for whatever reason, 'cause I'm listening to it as well. The Audible app, when I go to start, like say, hey, talk to my little smart speaker and I say, hey, open Audible. And I want to listen to Gino Wickman's Traction. For whatever reason, it always starts me back like, I don't know, a couple chapters. It always starts me at the same place. Like it never remembers where I ended. And then I'm like listening to it while I'm brushing my teeth. And it's like, I don't have time to like sit down and figure out how to go. And then I'm like, forget about it, Alexa. I hate you. And then and it starts my day really poorly. I'm in a bad attitude because I feel like Alexa screwed me over a little bit.
Yep.
So that's my story.
What's interesting is that right there experience is why it took me a long time to get into audiobooks or even digital books, ebooks, because I never trusted that I could open back up and be in the same spot. Like it's really easy to dog ear a page, right? Yeah. And if you don't dog ear it right, and you can skim through, I feel like really easily. Yeah. Audiobooks are terrible. Like I have fallen asleep listening to an audiobook, and you wake up and you're a couple chapters ahead, and finding that exact spot can be so frustrating to me that I just give up. No, I'm done with the book.
Yeah, no, I'm the same way. And I'll be honest with you. I mentioned Alexa. I've got some grievances with Alexa right now that involve would you
say it grinds your gears?
Well, yes, grinds my gears because I'm getting a lot of suggestions. I'll be like, Alexa, what time is it? And she'll say, it's 10:15. And oh, by the way, if you're interested in learning how to play the sitar, I can teach you with this new app. It's $99 a month for 12 months. Would you like to sign up? And I'm like, I just want to know the time, man. I just want to know the time. So anyway. Alexa. Trying to sell me stuff. I think that those smart speakers, like the main smart speakers, like, like whatever company makes them, like those speakers are good at whatever that company does, but they're crap at other stuff. If you want to know information, the Google speaker is great. If you want to buy a bunch of stuff, the Amazon, the Alexa speaker is fantastic. Like, I don't know what the Apple speaker is good at. I'm not sure. I don't know.
Doing what a bunch of other people did first better. Like,
yeah, I guess, but doing it better. They do it better. Yeah.
Right. Yeah, exactly.
That's great. Awesome.
Man, I heard today speaking with some folks that I work with about an AI kind of like app idea, which is it would be interesting to have, because these speakers, they all have got AI, right? Like what if our websites had like real AI and it could know information about you before it allows you to take an action on the site, right? And so we're thinking specifically in the context of people who will apply for a job even though they have no qualification whatsoever. Like, right? Wouldn't it be great if like they're thinking about filling it out, right, and telling the story as if they're qualified, and then the app it knows all their search history. It knows where they've worked. It's got their LinkedIn account, right? It just like throws up a red stop sign. No. Don't waste your time. Don't waste their time. Right.
Yeah. Yeah. I think I love it. I think it's brilliant because, and also like, I think like you should be able to set your own filters. Like in this scenario, as the employer trying to hire someone, you should be able to set your own filters. It's like if at any point in time, in the applicant search history, the person has confused the word lose and loose. No, thank you. Maybe that's elitist of me. But I work with a lot of writers, and I am a writer myself. Dude, you gotta work the lose and the loose are two different words.
You're going to have determinative decisions based on diction. I like that.
Yeah, determinative decisions based on diction. That even flows nicely. That's like you're almost freestyling there. That's like a hip hop song. I like it.
Alliteration is my jam, man. Alliteration is my jam. It really is.
Let me write this down.
Alliteration is the music of my soul.
Alliteration is the music. I'm writing this down.
Yeah. I peaked in 7th grade English language arts.
Nice.
I learned those lessons well.
Fantastic. That's awesome.
Well, you see anything interesting in the news lately, Mr. Fisher?
I mean, the one piece that jumped out to me actually I would forgive. I was just talking smack about my Alexa devices, but I would forgive the Alexa devices. I would forgive Amazon and would never ever say a bad word about beloved Alexa. If indeed this we see positive results from this story that just came out a couple of days ago, it was Amazon offering to distribute vaccine as states cope with problems with their freezers and stuff. And so it seems brilliant to me. It seems to make sense because these guys are amazing. I'm sorry, Amazon is amazing at logistics. Like they know how to get product to people like efficiently. And I'm really wondering, and of course there's a political story behind this now because some folks are yelling about, hey, all of a sudden we've got a new president. And like a day later, Amazon's like, hey, we'll make our resources available to you. Like, right. Okay.
It's very possible that the offer was made before and it was rejected. Right. Yeah. Which is also part of the part where we have no idea. So it's hard for me to know in this world, where to go on that angle of it. But I think your first point to me is, oh my gosh, like how come no one has thought about that? Right. What about the post office? They go to every single house right in the country, right? Or Amazon for that matter too, right? Like, we should be doing this, right? Yeah. This is how we're getting everything else in our lives. Man, wouldn't that make a lot of sense? Now, probably not a lot of us are good at, giving shots in our arms. So it's probably not home to home distribution. But man, what a great idea. getting them involved.
I listen sometimes when I can to a guy named Scott Galloway, whose company's called Section 4. He was professor at NYU, and he really covers a lot of these companies, the big tech companies, and that's something he's been talking about a lot. But what he's been talking about is how Amazon is driving a lot of future value for themselves because really upon the onset of the pandemic, when it really was besetting us, they were already working on how they could insulate their supply chains against pandemic. And so I feel like because and that was all driven by profit motive, obviously right. That's what they are. They're a business, and they've got to protect their profits. And so if indeed they've learned significant lessons on how to kind of COVID proof their supply chains, it'll be interesting to see if indeed they take those processes and then scale them up to deliver vaccine to, every person that wants a vaccine, which is hopefully most everybody. Right. How will that stand up? I almost think that, I think this is good. I think this is a good situation where we could see some government and private company partnership where, the government kind of clears the way, which often government doesn't clear the way for business, but they do clear the way for this particular thing. And then business can bring their efficiencies, these things that Amazon knows, and really deliver a product that everyone needs right now badly.
Absolutely. So, and I don't know if we've talked about this before, but one of the things that I love from like a technology and a customer, from both those perspectives, is the experience that you have with Amazon when something goes wrong. Mm-hmm. So I ordered some chairs and a bench from Amazon, and I ordered 2 sets of 2 chairs and a bench all at the same time, right? Put them all in the cart, and the 2 chairs were the same 2 chairs. I just ordered 2 of the quantity, right? Mm-hmm. And on 2 days later, the bench and one of the 2 sets of chairs arrives, right? But the second one didn't. It's like, okay, well, that's funny. Would have thought they would all been together. A couple days go by, and you can go in and check your order history, and you can see the status, right? Oh, this went wrong. It should come by this day. Well, by about the 3rd or 4th day after when it was supposed to arrive, the screen changed when I checked the order status, and it said, click this button for a refund or to replace it. And so I said, boom, replace. I got an email about 7 seconds later. It's got all the detail in it. And 2 days later, the chair arrives. Now, why is that important in this context? For me, if you're having to deliver 100 million doses, right, of a vaccine to place anywhere, when you're dealing with that scale, stuff goes wrong, right? And one of the things that's really important technology, figuring out, anticipating how to handle, I think Amazon has done a really good job of, is can you keep track of stuff when it goes wrong? And then can you update it and correct it? And then how much manual work does it take to do all that on the consumer's end, right? Yeah. That was almost no work, right? For me, I go back to the page, I check it, I hit 1 or 2 buttons, and it's all fine. That to me is brilliant. Great UI, great technology, and great customer experience. I'm interested to know, Mike, isn't this like this particular solution that you're talking about, like the, fixing things efficiently, quickly, having those processes in place, semi-automated or fully automated. Isn't that part of what you do in your day job? Isn't that like what you do? Yeah, oftentimes. So the world I live in is mostly the world of integration. So enterprise integration. And so in order for something like this to work, you've got a number of different systems that have to talk to each other. They have to share data. They have to update other systems. And so yes, absolutely. This is a perfect use case, right? You've got their web app, right? Which is where I go on Amazon.com or my mobile app where I'm doing all the ordering. You've got the email client that has to get a message when this one thing updates. You've got your inventory system that has to pull that inventory in, communicate, tell them where to ship, push all that information. It's a perfect use case for, this world of enterprise integration, which we do with MuleSoft, the MuleSoft platform. It's an integration platform as a service. And it's actually very interesting. A lot of the times MuleSoft will really point to Amazon and say, listen, one of the reasons our platform works so well is it really kind of follows this Amazon.com model, where from the very beginning with Amazon, they said, we need to build things around APIs, application programming interfaces, right? We need to create the ways for our software applications, programs to speak to other ones in a coordinated, unified way, so that when we change things, it doesn't break. We don't have a brittle system that's so tightly coupled together that we can't grow and expand. So absolutely great use case for the world of having smart integrations versus dumb integrations, right?
Yeah.
And where you can tell when something's not part of the one integrated system, when something goes wrong, how many phone calls do you have to make? How many people do you have to talk to solve the problem, right?
Yeah.
Which I've had with other shipping experiences where something goes wrong. Sure. It takes calls, it takes days, it takes weeks. That's why it's such a good experience for me. It's so emotional for me. Man, I've had to work so hard to fix things when they don't go right. But gosh, it's more investment than you would think to have that experience, because it is quite a bit of work.
Yeah, I think that's part of what makes Amazon so dominant. And I find myself, my own consumer behavior, if there's something I'm thinking about getting and I've done a bunch of research on it, and then I go to find that I'm actually at the point in time where I'm going to make the purchase. So I'm making that kind of, in my industry, I'm making that high intent purchasing search, and if the vendors that come up are not Amazon, then I double think it, or I think twice about it. Double think, but I think again, I'm like, do I really want to go through the process of having to deal with if this doesn't go right? Because Amazon has made it so easy in order for us to just click a button and something comes to us. So, yeah.
Well, it's interesting. In our world of sales, there's this idea of like referential selling, right? I sold to your neighbor, right?
Yeah.
And because I sold to your neighbor, I've got some credibility. And so you're going to be more likely to buy from me if I reference that. Right. Well, it's so brilliant that now your 1 to 5 star rating with your comments is the referential selling, and it's all totally automated. Right. It's really that exact same skill, practice, behavior that you have to teach a human that's all now part of the system. We're all trained to look for it and to think it's the most important thing. Right.
Yeah.
And so if it's not 4 stars plus, I'm not buying it. Right.
Yeah.
If I know 4 out of my 5 neighbors, right, said yes, that's a decent chance I'm going to like it. Right. If only 3 out of my 5 neighbors said yes, no, not going to work for me. Right. But it's really just, in my mind, it's another instance of referential selling.
Yeah, totally. So speaking of, I think Amazon probably is not the only organization in which you can press a button and something arrives to you.
Oh my gosh.
Another fun little.
Yeah. Well, I know you've seen this story, and
it's awesome.
If you think about the world of the Internet of Things, and you imagine what are all the great applications of the world of Internet of Things and connected devices and smart buttons that make things happen, right? You can think, man, there's some great applications out there. And then you think, what's the most crass, basic thing you could possibly imagine, right? Oh, I'll push a button and somebody brings me a Diet Coke. Well, turns like, of all the things, right, to have that button. So the story is that's one of the things that was removed from the Oval Office on Wednesday of inauguration week, which is where we are. There was apparently, like, in a wooden box, there was a button. And the president could push a button. And when he did, a single glass of Diet Coke was brought in by a butler on a silver tray. And it made me think of like Downton Abbey. And it made me think of the people who lived down below, right? And they'd hear the jingling of their little bell, and then they'd rush up and they'd have to serve something. But I think about, like, of all the things that you need every day that you're going to hit a button and ask for, Diet Coke is your thing.
Yeah.
Interesting. What was on the other side? Was there a TV screen? Did it flicker? Did someone was it like, woo, woo, woo? Was it a big white polar bear from Coca-Cola?
Yeah.
I mean, what was it? Somebody get a Shaka pager? I don't know. But I learned that shocked me.
And the thing is that I don't know that anybody really, like, should we really be shocked that the previous president wanted to have a button installed on his desk in which he pressed it and on the other end was an unlimited supply of Coke? Come on. I memean, look, if you think about, like, the presidents and you equate them to kind of like what their drug is, I'm sorry, but the most recent previous president is a cocaine president. I'm sorry.
Yeah. It's certainly
offense.
Behavior, right? No,
no offense. All due respect.
No offense, right? Yeah, right. I'm kind of surprised there wasn't a button next to it that brought him the cheeseburgers that he likes so much.
Right on.
Like, right? Because that's
was
the
it
only
Burger
thing
King? Is it Burger King that he liked?
God, I think it was McDonald's. And I think, okay. I think the reasoning was if you make that many burgers every day, you've got to be sanitary clean. Which is, to me, the opposite of the actual thinking. If you're making that many burgers a day, how many things could go wrong?
Yeah, well, indeed.
But so what I was trying to think about and imagining was like, how did that happen? I mean, there was a time which there was no button, right? Mm-hmm. And then a button appeared on the desk, right? And I don't know the details. I don't know if it was there the whole time. I don't know if he had that in his previous office. And did he just imagine that? Probably not. Somebody sold that to him. Who was the salesperson that came in and said, I can give you a button. All you have to do is press it and Coke will arrive.
That seems like a very Kellyanne Conway kind of thing.
Oh, man.
Kellyanne sold that deal? It?
Probably, right?
Yeah.
And you think about, like, that's kind of a complicated sell, too, because it's not just I need to sell you the device. I have to create an entire business process that you now follow. Right. Yeah. And all these other people around you now follow. That's impressive selling.
Do you think do you think that the federal government issued an RFP, a request for proposal, for that particular vendor?
Oh, my gosh. They would almost certainly have to. It's probably the General Services Administration.
Yeah.
And so I wonder if there's a way to search those records.
I'm sure there are. So we need to search the RFP, the records, federal records for RFPs for Coke button.
Coke delivery button.
Yeah. Coke button in quotes.
Oh, what a great idea. That's a great project. This is going to have to be a follow-up. There will be a round 2 where we talk about this in the future.
We need to do some investigative journalism is what I think.
Now, I do know, I don't really know. I've read reports that allegedly that Biden does not have the Coke button on the desk anymore. It's not there, but he does have a Peloton bike, a connected Peloton bike, which is pretty exciting to think about that kind of technology being brought into the White House.
Yeah, I read there was actually security concerns because it's a connected device or whatever, right?
Exactly, right. It is a connected device. And, I would anticipate that in a situation like that, you could have some sort of private network just for the bike, right? Where you're not getting it. And what's interesting about the bike is, to my knowledge, I've used Peloton before, had one for a while. It doesn't have a camera, it doesn't have a microphone. So it's not actually recording you, at least from what I recall. And so I was very surprised that they felt like it was a big security concern because it's just delivering content. So in that way, I don't see how it would be different than a TV channel, right? Because you're watching content, you're selecting content. So I'm not exactly sure what people were making the security concern out to be.
I don't know. That's interesting. I'm surprised that that became a story, just because I feel like that, like the early in the pandemic, or it was early in the pandemic, Peloton got some bad pub for a campaign that they
for the pandemic. It was Christmas.
Yeah, you know what I'm talking about. It was that one where
Absolutely.
they were. Yeah, and so where it was all about, like, get your wife a Peloton, keep your little lady in shape,
Well, so here's the funny part about all that, right? So the commercial was the wife herself starting her Peloton journey, and she's talking about how hard it is and how hard she's working and then how proud she is. And right, in many ways, I could see how that could be a very compelling story, which is, somebody wants to get in shape and you're a loving, supportive partner, and you provide a way to help make that happen, right? That's a great story.
Sure.
A lot of people were triggered by that because it's not their story or how they interact with their spouse, and so maybe that's an unusual thing. But I got to tell you, about 3 months later, I bought a Peloton. I started using it, and I was like, well, I know what she's talking about. Like, absolutely, like, it's awesome. I love it.
Really,
and the trainers are incredible. Yeah. And I
have to check that out.
Yeah, I was lucky enough to buy some Peloton stock before everyone realized that their business wasn't going to tank just because of that commercial. And then it, increased quite a bit last year. Yeah.
2.3 billion in sales over the last 12 months, according to Motley Fool.
Yep.
That's
they do both things, right? They've got the big upfront one-time purchase, but then they also have the subscription, so you maintain access to it. So it's a very, very good business model. This big, expensive, complicated piece of hardware, right? That's going to be obsolete in 3, 4, 5 years. You're going to have to get the new model. Like, it's pretty good.
It's like an iPhone. Yeah.
Yeah.
That monthly recurring revenue business is that's just, it's critical now. That's what everybody's going to,
Absolutely.
The Apple's going to their services. They're really pushing their services side. They've got this, they got their Apple, they're calling it like Apple Plus, or I haven't signed up for it, but I probably am. But it includes all of it's like the music and the
TV,
all the other TV, the books, honestly, the Apple thing, the Apple service that I'm spending the most time with, I'm afraid I'm going to regret admitting this in public. It's Apple Arcade. It's like $3-4. Yeah, it's on the App Store. It's like $3-5 a month or something. It's not very like just a la carte. And it's just all these little goofy little games that are perfect for my middle-aged old man brain. Like they're not, it's not like, World of Warcraft or whatever. It's not one of these games. It's just on your phone, and it's just like, comforting little games, playing soccer and baseball and stuff.
Interesting. Yeah. And it's $3 or $4 a month?
Yeah, something like that.
Man, well, I might have to check that out. I've recently, like for a long time, I had my phone. I didn't have any games on it, right? Then my kids want some games.
Sure.
So I download some games for them. And then I start playing them with them. And then because I play with my kids, we have a lot of fun, right? It's not only fun, but then you have the positive association. Now I play it more than the kids do, right? I'm sitting there playing the little game that my son wanted to download, right? He doesn't play it anymore. He doesn't even think about it any time, but I play it every day. You get 10 minutes here, 5 minutes there, right? Okay, let me level up my little characters.
Nice.
It's great.
That's all. You're gonna tell us what game it is?
Well, there's two games. One is called Soul Guard, SOLGARD.
Okay, I'm writing that down.
And then the other one is like a Mario Run. So it's this little Super Mario Runner game, and you bounce and he runs forward, and it's all these different characters you play as. It's really simple stuff, but it just occupies the brain for a few minutes at a time.
And man, think about how long Mario has been around. Mario's been around a really long time.
30-something years. Yeah.
That's crazy.
Yeah.
That's a really long time.
There are many Mario games. I don't know. I mean, as I started to get into it and look at it, because someone loves Mario, right? There are far more Mario games than I realized. So
yeah. Oh yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. I wouldn't be surprised if there's 50 plus.
If I'm remembering correctly, and I could be not remembering this correctly, I think the very first Mario game was Donkey Kong, because that was the character. Like it's the Mario was not the main character, but that was the first kind of Mario-ish universe game, the Mario-verse, the first game in the Mario-verse.
The Mario-verse, the extended Mario-verse.
Yeah, right. I don't know if it's canonical or not, or if it's canon, Mario-verse or not.
I think it is, actually. I think you are correct, and I think it is canonical.
Awesome. Yeah. Very good.
Yeah.
You want to talk about this other story we were talking about earlier?
Yeah, I mean, it's pretty interesting. So, U.S. Defense Intelligence Agency admits to buying citizens' location data.
Interesting.
And the agency says, well, it doesn't need a warrant to collect that data. And so, I don't know if folks know how data collection happens or data collection works, but in theory, I think the way that agencies try to justify that while saying they're not invading privacy is that in theory, you can collect data, but keeping personal information anonymized. And so in theory, it doesn't know that it's, Mike Slack, here in Oklahoma City, who's got his phone open playing Soul Guard, right? Yeah. But it knows, hey, there's a white male in his mid-30s in Oklahoma City playing Soul Guard, right? So in theory, that information can be anonymized. I would expect that anyone who has access to those systems could discover who those people are, right? Yeah. It could discover that it's Mike Slack who's playing Soul Guard on his phone.
Yeah.
So major privacy concerns here. Also, my first reaction, honestly, my emotional reaction to this was like, why does the government even need to buy this? Like, can't they just get it on their own? Why are they buying it? Don't they have their own tracking services?
Seriously.
That was actually my first thought. And then I thought, geez, how much are they paying for this data? Who are they buying it from? So whole lot of questions, and I'm sure there will be a whole lot of questions. And I got to tell you one thing I'm really happy about. I'm really happy this is a story because it reminds us of the kinds of things that we should be looking into and the kinds of conversations that should be happening about government in a normal administration, right?
Yeah.
Which is, hey, the government did something that may or may not be good. Here are the facts. Let's debate it. Let's understand the context and let's make a decision.
Yeah.
I feel like it's just, I think a lot of people not everyone in the world, right? But a lot of people took a collective breath of, fresh air this week and are seeing things differently. Maybe even not anticipating that was going to happen, then it happens. And so that's the other thing that I think about, right? Thinking about this story is like, this is just a good story. Let's dig into it. Let's figure it out. Let's do something about it. That's how it should work.
It reminds me a lot of like the Prism, Edward Snowden. I remember listening to an interview with Edward Snowden where he was talking about like these systems that they were using. In theory, they're people's identities are anonymized or they're shielded. But you'd have rank and file staff, government agency staff that were like checking in on their ex-girlfriends and stuff like that. I mean, like that's not good.
Well, and the thing to know is that a lot of that work is done by not even government staff, but it's done by contractors.
Absolutely.
Right? So if somebody is hired to do a security project, right? And you sign NDAs and you sign agreements, right? But there are human beings who have access to your data, right?
Yeah.
Just probably in the same way, there are human beings who have access, if you have money in a bank, to your bank information, to your finances, right? And that's one area for me where, I know, right, that Wells Fargo has access to my banking information, right? I know that, right?
Yeah.
Do I know who has access to my personal data? No, that's for me. I should be probably, I feel like I should be more of like a privacy hawk just in general, and certainly more cautious, but that's the part of it for me where it crosses that line of, I don't know who has access to information about me.
Yeah. I think part of the challenge with that is like in theory, in principle, whenever I hear stories like this, I'm like, that is not good. Like people need to have a level of like we have to have a level of privacy in order to be able to live our lives in a happy and efficient way. But then when I think about it from a personal level, like not principle, but just in my own personal life, like what that metadata would say, like that location data would be like, he sits on his ass a lot. He watches a lot of YouTube. He works during the day, 20 feet from where he sits on his ass in the recliner and watches YouTube. Like he doesn't leave very often because there's a pandemic on. Like he plays Apple arcade games. Like that's what it's going to say, And so I'm like, whatever, if somebody at Booz Allen Hamilton or the NSA wants to know, like what YouTube videos I'm watching, fine.
One of the challenges though, right, is when information or when decisions are being made on information patterns, is that every once in a while anomalies occur and your information pattern is going to overlap with an information pattern of a dangerous bad actor.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Like there's a dangerous bad actor who happens to like live in the building next door to you and he does a lot of those same things. And then someday you get confused with him. And then I have to bail you out of a maximum security federal penitentiary. Right.
Yeah. You have to go get me a Gitmo.
Yeah.
Yeah, I hope there's nobody dangerous that's like really riding their Peloton over by where your house is because you're in trouble, buddy.
Absolutely. Right. Screaming and sweating. Like, oh, wait, what is that message he's screaming?
That's awesome. Yeah. Well, Mike, this has been fun. I think we're coming up on time. I think you got to go do something, right?
I got to go do something. Absolutely.
I love it when that happens. That's good. I got to go greet my wife who just came home. So what
a great idea.
Yeah. So just by the way, so people know, if you want more information about this podcast, please subscribe. We're available on all of the main platforms. We're like right by the Joe Rogan podcast on Spotify. It's like Rogan and then us.
Yeah, absolutely. Yep.
TalkyTalkyPod.com. That's the web address, TalkyTalkyPod.com. Just Google it if you have to, and I guess we'll talk again in a week, right?
I'm excited. Let's do it.
Yeah. All right, buddy. Take care.
Thanks a lot. See you, buddy.
Thank you. Bye.